So now more than ever, having your money in a high yield savings account is going to be an essential step to get ahead financially. Not only are you going to be saving money, but you could also be earning hundreds or even thousands of dollars in interest every year. However, you got to be careful and choose the right savings account because there's some good ones out there offering anywhere from between 4 and 5% APY right now. But then there's also plenty of really bad accounts out there from some pretty big name banks paying as little as 0.01% that you definitely want to avoid because your savings would actually be losing value thanks to inflation. So in this video, we're gonna rank over 20 of the most popular savings accounts out there on the market in a tier list to make things super easy to follow. And to keep things simple, we're gonna make these rankings based on the following general criteria. So if the account has no fees, no minimums, and a competitive APY, then it's gonna fall into the B tier, which in my opinion makes it a solid option and a really good starting point here for what you should be looking for when it comes to where to put your savings. Then if a certain bank has a savings account that maybe has some other valuable features or somehow even more benefits, then we'll go ahead and bump that account up to maybe the A tier or even the S tier at the top. But then if we start to see some fees or minimum balance requirements, only an okay or bad APY or some other disadvantages, then we'll go ahead and bump that savings account down accordingly to either the lower C or D tiers. Also, all the accounts here in this video are going to have FDIC insurance so that your money is protected because that is obviously going to be essential. And then additionally, I just want to point out that the interest rates here are going to change over time. So many of the rates that I talk about right here in this video are going to be accurate at the time of filming, but the exact numbers might be a little bit off or a little bit different by the time you watch this. So with all that said, let's go ahead and start off here with possibly the most common name in banking for the very first savings account here in this video, and that is going to be from Chase, where we're going to talk about their standard account called Chase Savings. Now Chase markets this as their most popular savings account, but right off the bat here, they do mention there's going to be a $5 monthly service fee, which can be avoided by just meeting certain requirements they state, like having a $300 minimum balance. So already, honestly, off to a bad start here because there's so many other great savings accounts that we're going to talk about throughout this video that have absolutely no fees and no minimums. But then to make things worse here for Chase Savings, the interest rate that they're offering from this account is going to be almost non-existent at one of those terrible rates of only 0.01% APY. So even though I personally am a big fan of Chase for some of their other products and services, like the credit cards they have, there's really just going to be no incentives for really the average person to keep their savings here with Chase because this is by no means a high yield account or even a medium yield account. So Chase Savings is going to go ahead down into the D tier, and you definitely want to make sure to avoid it. Now, just to give you an idea of what a competitive rate actually looks like to sort of just set the tone for the rest of this video, next here we've got American Express with their high yield savings account that is currently offering a rate of 4.25% APY. And with this account, you're going to be earning interest at a rate that is 425 times higher than that Chase account. To put that into perspective, if you had $10,000 saved up and you kept that money set aside in this high yield Amex account for 1 year, you would earn $425 in interest compared to just one single dollar in interest from that terrible 0.01% APY that Chase and some other similar banks offer. So really, one of the goals that I have here with this video is just to sort of act as a wake-up call for too many people out there who don't realize what they're missing out on, and they're really missing out by keeping their money with one of these more traditional savings accounts at these larger banks. Now, with this Amex account, there's no minimum balance requirements, no monthly fees, and you can also go ahead and set up auto deposits to make saving money automated and simple. And even though there's not really going to be any other major features or benefits here, to me that's really okay because again, we are earning a good competitive rate. And we're also going to be banking with a pretty highly rated brand like American Express. So for this savings account, we're going to go ahead and place it in the B tier, which honestly is going to be a really good thing because most of the top savings accounts here in this video are going to end up in either the B or the A tier anyway. So after you finish watching this entire video, just go ahead and check out any of the accounts in those tiers and you'll definitely be good to go. All right, now next, we're going to keep things moving along here to another big name in the whole banking and credit card world, which is going to be Capital One with their 360 Performance Savings account. And that is also going to come in with a rate of 4.25% APY and also has no fees or minimums. Capital One 360 Savings is pretty popular for the fact that you can automate your savings as well, and then you can also just create multiple accounts for different goals you might have. So it's super easy to open up more than one savings account with them, and actually me and my wife just went ahead and did that when we opened up a joint account just the other day where we're kind of just keeping our savings for a down payment on a house, and it probably took us like 5 minutes to get that set up. So Capital One also checks all the boxes here with no fees or minimums, along with a very competitive APY, so they're going to go into the B tier as well as a great option. All right, moving on to the next account, we're going to jump back over to another massive name in the whole banking industry that most people are familiar with, and that is going to be Wells Fargo with their most popular savings account, which is Way to Save. So with this one, you can see that Wells Fargo mentions they have a $25 minimum opening deposit requirement along with a $5 monthly service fee, although that monthly service fee can actually be waived with a $300 minimum daily balance. That fee structure is very similar to what we saw from that Chase savings account, and then just like Chase, Wells Fargo is also also only going to be offering a rate of 0.01% APY for this way to save account. So once again, because we've got fees here and a minimum with an awful APY, Wells Fargo is also going to go into the D tier at the bottom of our rankings, and I do not recommend it. Now, I do want to point out that sometimes banks like Wells Fargo and a few other big names in the whole industry do offer a premium savings account like this one here called Platinum Savings from Wells Fargo, which might be able to offer maybe a slightly higher rate like 2.51%, but that is still nowhere near the 4 to 5% that other high yield accounts offer. And you also have to hold massive amounts of money here in the savings account to even qualify. Plus, you also might only get these rates if you link a premium checking account, which also charges unnecessary fees. So again, look out for those fees and look out for those minimum balance requirements along with whatever interest rate you might be able to get, because so far Wells Fargo and Chase have been pretty bad, and personally, I've actually moved my savings away from those accounts over the past few years. And next year, I figured I'd mention just another place that I have moved my money over to for my primary bank accounts, and that is SoFi. Now, when you open a SoFi bank account, what you're actually gonna get here is a checking account and a savings account that basically work really well together. And with these accounts, right now, SoFi is offering a rate of 0.50% APY on checking balances, along with the highest rate so far in this video of 4.60% APY on savings balances. There's also no fees or minimums with SoFi, which again is going to be huge. But what I do want to mention here is that in order to qualify for that higher 4.60% rate on the savings account with SoFi, you do have to set up and then receive either direct deposit from something like your paycheck from your employer, or you have to receive equal to or greater than $5,000 in deposits during a 30-day period. Basically, SoFi wants customers who are there to bank with them as their primary bank. But then on top of that 4.60% APY, you also get a vaults feature within the savings account, which me and my wife Jackie have been using to set up sub accounts for things like our wedding fund, our travel fund, and some other stuff like that, where we can easily just move money around for different savings goals. We also like being able to link other accounts that we have so we can just track our net worth and then view all of our expenses all in one single place in our SoFi account. So yeah, SoFi is going to be a great high yield savings account with honestly one of the highest rates on their checking balances as well. And there's even a bonus promotion right now that SoFi is running at the moment where you can receive between $50 and $300 once you go ahead and set up direct deposit and then receive a certain amount of deposits within a 30-day period. I'll leave a link down below to SoFi and that offer if you want to learn more. But for SoFi, we're going to go ahead and definitely put them into the A tier, with the only thing really holding them back from being in the S tier being that direct deposit requirement. But again, I understand why they have that in place. Also, I know this is going to be a pretty big list here for this video, so what I'm going to try to do is just leave a downloadable spreadsheet down below in the description as well with all the accounts mentioned here in this video, and I'll try to keep that list as updated as possible with current rates as well as links to all these different accounts. So feel free to go ahead and check that out if you want to as well. Now next, I've got the Marcus Online Savings Account from Goldman Sachs, which is going to be currently offering a rate of 4.40% APY. And then again, like most of these other good high yield accounts here, there's no fees and no minimum deposit requirements. This Marcus account is going to be another one that's just super simple and super basic because there's not really many other notable features here that would really bump it up to the A tier. But again, it fits all the criteria for the B tier, which like I said, is going to be a great place to be and you really can't go wrong with it. But what's interesting here is for this next account, it's also technically going to be a savings account from Goldman Sachs, even though it is branded a little bit differently. And that is going to be the Apple Savings Account, which is also currently offering 4.40% APY. Now, the whole Apple and Goldman Sachs partnership has apparently really not been going that great, thanks to some failures and some losses to Goldman Sachs caused by the Apple Card. So apparently this partnership actually might be coming to an end pretty soon, but I haven't really seen any updates on that for a while, so I really don't know exactly what that means for the future of this savings account. Now, the 4.40% APY rate here is going to be very competitive, and it also seems like the account and the Apple Card even have been pretty decent for people that prefer the simplicity of Apple's user interfaces. Plus, there's no fees or minimums, which again is always a good thing. However, you do have to be an Apple Card holder in the first place to even open this account, which is going to be a pretty significant disadvantage. Still though, there's technically not going to be anything wrong here with the savings account at the moment, so I am going to place it into the B tier because it does meet all my requirements. But what I will say is that I probably would not recommend this for any new customers, at least until Apple actually figures out what it's going to do with its banking partner going forward once Goldman exits the partnership. Next, we're going to move to a really popular online-only bank that I think was one of the first true high-yield accounts I learned about a while ago, and that is going to be Ally Bank, who has a savings account that's currently offering a rate of 4.20% APY. So again, definitely a competitive rate there, and then they also advertise that they've got no monthly maintenance fees and no minimum balance requirements. But then like SoFi, it's really going to be some of the other features and benefits here from Ally that I think actually set it apart from other accounts. So first of all, Ally Savings offers what they call buckets, which is basically just their version of having these sub accounts where you can create them and then organized for different savings goals. And again, I really love this feature because I think it truly helps people to just get behind the whole idea of finding a purpose for their savings, which then is going to incentivize the act of saving money. The second additional thing that I like here with Ally is what they call boosters, which includes the ability to just set up recurring transfers, round up transactions from Ally's spending account, which is then going to automatically get moved into the savings account. And then there's also a booster called Surprise Savings, where Ally sort of just looks at any of your other linked checking accounts, then they determine what money is safe to save, and then they go ahead and transfer that money over to the savings account for you as well. So you can see there's a big theme here on just automating your savings, which is something that a lot of people might be interested in. So yeah, Ally is very great, and I'm gonna put them up in the A tier as well here since they do have a lot to offer. And again, the 4.20% rate is gonna be good and competitive, but there are a few other high rates we're gonna cover later on here in this video, so there's still plenty of options and plenty of accounts you can choose from. After Ally, we're gonna jump over to Bank of America, who again is gonna be a massive banking institution, just like Chase and Wells Fargo. But when it comes to savings accounts, there's still just not gonna be that much here, just like some of those other big banks. So with Bank of America Savings, there's gonna be a required opening deposit of $100. There's an $8 monthly maintenance fee that can be waived with a few things like a $500 minimum daily balance. And then for interest rates, you're only getting 0.01% APY or up to only 0.04% APY if you're in the Platinum Honors tier of the Preferred Rewards program. So obviously that's gonna fail every single thing we're looking at here. And that means that with Bank of America, with their savings account, that also is gonna go and fall down to the bottom D tier as well. But next, let's move on to a name that's also pretty big here in the US, especially in the Pennsylvania market where I'm from, and that is gonna be PNC Bank. Now, PNC operates in 28 states plus Washington, DC at the moment, and what I found is they have sort of this normal savings account that I found over on their website from my area, which is gonna offer anywhere from 0.01 to 0.03% APY. But then on Google, I also found they offer this high yield account with a competitive rate of 4.65% APY. However, in the fine print, you can see that this account is only gonna be available online in eligible markets or at select PNC locations. So after doing some digging around, I found this Forbes article that says you can really only get this PNC high yield savings account if you're a resident of Arizona, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, or West Virginia. Now, there's no monthly fees or service charges here, and there's also gonna be no deposit or balance requirements for the high yield account. But because there is this sort of geographic limitation, that is gonna be a disadvantage that I'm gonna use to go ahead and put PNC down into the C tier. Even though obviously if you do live in one of those states where you can get that 4.65% rate, then by all means go ahead and check that out because that is gonna be a very good rate. Next, we've got another famous credit card issuer with Discover, who actually has some really solid banking options as well at the moment. So in terms of savings, Discover offers a high yield account that's currently paying a rate of 4.25% APY. This savings account also has no standard fees or minimums, and normally that's sort of just where the features kind of stop with savings accounts. But with Discover, I also did want to mention here and include the fact that if you pair this with a checking product they offer, which they market as the Discover Cashback Debit Account, you can actually go ahead and earn 1% cashback on up to $3,000 in debit card purchases each month as well. Now, obviously, I'm a huge credit card guy with all the credit card videos I make here on this YouTube channel, so I'm not the biggest fan of using debit cards all that much, but still, I do recognize there are people out there who might be in credit card debt, or they just don't really like credit cards, but they still want to earn at least some cash back. So for those people, I think the Discover Cashback Debit Account combined with this solid high yield savings account that's paying a 4.25% rate is going to be a great option. And with that additional checking feature, plus the fact that Discover is usually regarded as having some of the best customer service out there when it comes to the products, I'm going to go ahead and put them up into the A tier because they definitely could be a very good option here again. All right, moving on next to an account that a lot of people have actually recommended in the comment sections to some older videos here on the channel, and that is going to be Bask Bank, which offers a crazy high savings interest rate along with a pretty unique additional savings product that I'll talk about here as well. So Bask Bank is basically the online banking division of Texas Capital Bank, and Bask is currently offering an amazing rate here of 5.10% APY, which makes that the highest interest rate so far in this video. And like so many other top savings accounts out there, we've got no fees and no minimums here as well. And so with that interest rate, I've got to go ahead and put Bask up into the A tier if you're someone out there who's really looking to optimize the interest you're earning. But then the other reason that I'm putting them into the A tier is because they also offer another high yield account, which is pretty interesting because instead of earning cash interest, you can earn American Airlines miles. So this is going to be called their mileage savings account, where right now you can earn 2.5 American Airlines miles per $1 saved in this account. Now, to some people that might sound good, but I do just want to go ahead and warn you here that you really have to be a very, very savvy points miles redemption expert to even justify using this account right now at the moment. And that's because when you do the math, if you're redeeming American Airlines miles at an average value of maybe 1 cent per mile, which is going to be pretty typical, then this 2.5 miles earned per dollar saved is going to equal 2.5 cents, and 2.5 cents in value per $1 saved is an effective APY of only 2.5%. So that is below the 5.1% APY in the normal Basque Bank high yield account. Now, if you redeem at 2 cents per mile, then that effective rate here on this mileage savings account is going to go up to 5% APY, and then 3 cents per mile of redemption value becomes 7.5% APY. But because American Airlines uses what's called dynamic pricing in their points and miles world here, that means basically that the miles price for a plane ticket through the American Airlines award chart system is generally going to kind of fluctuate closely in line with the cash price, and that actually makes finding those really high cent per point redemptions a bit more difficult. There are still deals out there for award seats through other international partner airlines that American Airlines works with, but honestly right now, because that high yield account with Basque Bank is going to be so high at 5.1% right now, it is kind of hard to justify recommending the mileage savings account just at the moment. But either way, Basque Bank definitely is going to be one of the banks out there that is a top bank offering some great savings products, so I do think they deserve a spot up in the A tier. Next, we've got CIT Bank, which was also a bank that I had a lot of people commenting about in some previous videos. And with this one, we're going to start by talking about their Platinum Savings account, which currently is offering a rate of 5.00% APY. Now, the only two downsides here are the fact that they do have a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement, and that 5% rate is also only going to be available in the specific account if you have a balance of $5,000 or more. Otherwise, you're only earning 0.25% APY with a balance of less than $5,000. Luckily, there's no other account opening fees or maintenance fees or stuff like that. And normally when we do have this $5,000 requirement, that would kind of make me want to downgrade this account to a lower tier when I'm ranking it. However, CIT also offers what they call a Savings Connect account that still offers a very high yield of 4.65% APY with no fees. And even though there is also a $100 minimum opening deposit requirement here as well, that is obviously a pretty small amount. So overall, I am going to put CIT Bank in the B tier as well as another good option. After that, we'll go to TD Bank, which is another very large bank here that mostly operates along the East Coast. And for them, their best savings account is going to be called TD Signature Savings, which offers up to 4.00% APY, but that is only going to be available if you link another eligible TD Bank account and only if you hold at least $100,000 in the savings account. There's also a $15 monthly fee, which can be waived if you have a $10,000 minimum daily balance or more, or you link an eligible TD Bank checking account. But then those checking accounts, they also have these weird fees that you have to try to waive by doing all these other different things as well. Also then, if you don't meet all those requirements, TD Bank is only going to be giving you the bare minimum rate of between 0.01 and 0.05% APY. So that's just honestly too many hoops to jump through here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put them down into the D tier for that because there are just better and simpler options out there. Moving on next to a high yield savings account from Valley Direct, we're gonna have another savings account here that offers a rate of 4.75% APY with no fees, which is a rate that's one of the highest tier. And even though there is kind of a dumb minimum deposit requirement of $1 and a 1 cent minimum average daily balance, the rates are very competitive, obviously, and there's no other fees, so I am still gonna put it up into the B tier. Now, I actually wanna touch briefly here on fintech companies like Wealthfront and a few others out there that offer very high yields but aren't technically banks, so we'll talk more about those in just a bit. But first, let's go ahead and go through just a few more rapid fire savings accounts with very good rates and no fees or minimums that I did want to mention here. So next, we've got UFB Direct, which is a division of Axos Bank, and they've got the UFB Secure Savings Account that offers 5.25% APY. And after that, there's Laurel Road, which is a brand of KeyBank, which has a high yield savings of 5.15% APY. Then Everbank with a performance savings account is currently offering 5.05% APY. And after that, there's also Barclays Online Savings coming in at 4.35% APY. I'm gonna put all those accounts there into the B tier because there's not really gonna be any extra features that kind of set them apart that much, but obviously some of those accounts are offering rates above 5%, so they might be good options for that. But again, like I've been saying throughout the video here, you really just can't go wrong with anything that I'm putting into the A or the B tier. I could honestly probably just keep listing more and more smaller banks out there that have these online high yield savings accounts, but I think you guys get the idea here that as long as the rates are competitive, there's no fees or minimums, and there's also FDIC insurance because you're depositing with an actual bank, then I'd probably just go ahead and rank any other accounts here into at least the B tier as well, unless they have like really terrible customer reviews or something like that. Now, as far as those fintech companies and some other cash management accounts that we do have out there on the market that technically are not true bank accounts, again, I wanted to briefly touch on those here as well because there are plenty of very good high yield options out there like Wealthfront Cash. So for example, that offers up to 5.00% APY and could be ranked in the A tier in my opinion because of some of the strong features they have. But given some recent events that have happened over the past few months with companies out there like Yada that you can go ahead and read about online where people essentially just had their money kind of frozen because of a third-party middleman issue, I did want to mention a few things to consider here. First of all, if you're using an account from a company that is not a bank, but they advertise that your money is still FDIC insured, then that FDIC insurance is likely coming from partner banks that they work with where your money is actually being held. And we can see that right here with Wealthfront Cash, where they say here on their website that they're not quite a bank, but they have FDIC insurance through partner banks. Now, that's not necessarily a problem because even massive firms out there like Vanguard offer these cash management accounts that are high yield that also work with partner banks to hold your money and offer that FDIC coverage. But the problem lately really seems to be that sometimes there is a middleman that helps to facilitate the transfer of your money from a cash management account that you actually want to use to the actual partner banks where your money is being held. In the case of Yotta, there was this middleman called Synapse that went bankrupt, and then without getting into too much detail here, essentially what happened is that there was all these disputes about Yotta customer balances, and then some money went missing. And then even though FDIC insurance technically did cover customer funds in the event that a partner bank failed, it did not cover customer funds when a third-party middleman failed or there's any issues that kind of pop up from that, which is basically my understanding of what happened here with Yotta. Hopefully, eventually, it just all gets resolved and then people get their money back for that situation. But the main concern here for this video that I did want to quickly mention is, could something very similar happen to other fintech companies out there that offer an account that is not actually a bank itself, but works through partner banks? So again, accounts like Wealthfront Cash and the Betterment High Yield Cash account and plenty of others out there on the market, they have all these great features, they pay these high rates, and they have very good customer reviews as well. And I personally don't really think there's much to worry about here. And then also they're really nothing like what Yotta had become, because Yotta eventually sort of just morphed into almost a gambling platform. But ultimately, it is going to be up to these fintech companies to just make sure they have the right risk management systems in place. And then it's also going to be up to them to kind of make sure they can just reassure customers out there that this kind of situation will not happen to them in the future as well. So I guess my point here in saying all this stuff is that you got to make sure you go ahead and do your own research and then think very carefully about where you want to put your savings. And there's always going to be at least some risk with putting your money pretty much anywhere. And I mean, you could actually withdraw all your savings as cash if you wanted to, if you didn't really trust banks, and then you could just save it on your mattress. But then of course you're going to be exposed to a house fire or being robbed, so really it's never risk-free. But at the end of the day, again, the banks we ranked here in this video are actual banks that are directly covered by the FDIC in the unlikely event that they fail. So personally right now, I just like to look for a nice competitive rate with maybe a few additional features. I avoid any fees and minimums, again, like I said throughout the video, then I just go with that account. That way I can focus on any of my other financial goals. Now, if you liked this style of video where I ranked a bunch of bank accounts, then make sure to go ahead and check out this video over here on the screen next, where I did a pretty similar thing and I ranked a bunch of credit cards. And to me, it's just always going to be a very good thing to make sure you're using the right credit cards in your wallet setup to get the most value back from your everyday spending. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.